Good day, everyone. This is Doc Rich, your self-proclaimed business doctor, and today we're going to continue the discussion for financial management or basic finance. And the title of our lesson for the day is Lesson 11: Compounding and Discounting Using Tables 1 and 2. So last time we talked about the compound interest, and we know that from the discussion we discovered that compound interest will yield or will give us more a bigger interest compound to our simple interest. Then we also talked about last time that we can compound an amount. We can get the compound interest either quarterly, monthly, semi-annual, or annually. No? Pag sinabi natin quarterly, every 3 months we can compute the interest. When we say semi-annual, we can compute the interest every 6 months. No? Pag sinabing annual, so taon-taon, we compute the interest. So those are the compound, we call them as the compound period. No? Monthly, semi-annual, quarterly, and annually. Okay? It will yield a bigger profit compared to the simple interest. And in our sample here, so ito yung ating tinatawag na, going to get the future value or the compound amount of a certain amount. No? Example, if we're going to invest today and to be compounded quarterly, to be compounded annually, so magkano yung ating amount in the future, like 5 years from now. So I have an example here. You're going to deposit 1,000 pesos in a bank, and the bank manager will tell us that the deposit of 1,000 will earn like 7%. Okay, so pag tinanong natin after 1 year at 7%, pagkano yung interest na may-yield or makukuha natin dun sa ating deposit. So we just multiply this one, 1,000 times 1.07. So 1 is constant. At yung 7% is to be converted first into decimal. So 7% is 0.07. So that is 1.07. If we multiply straight 1,000 by 1.07, it will give us 1,070. Sabihin, after 1 year, your amount will be compounded to 1,070 during the first year. No? And if you have more time, example 2 years yan, so we will compute in 2 years time kung magkano yung interest natin makukuha. But for the first year, the amount is 70. Now, this one is compounding. If you're going to compute also as well the simple interest, it will give the same amount. So, sa unang taon ng investment, yung simple interest tapos yung compound interest will yield the same result. It will give us the same 70 pesos na interest. But as the deposit runs for the remaining period of time, in the long run, the long term, mas mataas na kuha ang interest ng compound compared sa simple interest. No? So dito magkapareho lang sila kasi unang taon pa lang yan. But in the succeeding years, mas mataas makukuha na interest if we're going to use the compound interest. Sorry. Now, ito yung sample ng ng isang interest that will run up to the second year na. So using compound interest. So sa unang taon, pag isang taon lang naman yung ginagamit natin or kukuha ng interest, we just multiply 1,000 by 1.07. Okay? If we multiply that straight, the product will give us 1,070, means that is the compound. Yan yung future amount or ito yung total amount na makukuha mo sa iyong single deposit during the first year. Okay? Now, pag 2 taon yung yung investment mo, so ibig sabihin yan sa ating formula, we multiply 1,000 by 2, 1.07 by 2, 1.07. So we have 2 parentheses dito. Now we multiply straight 1,000 times 1.07 times 1.07. It will give us 1,144.90. Ayan, no? That is for the second year, no? So, ibig sabihin, pag 10 years pala yung investment, so it means we will multiply the 1,010 times by 1.07. Okay? Pag maraming taon, no? Yung ating gamitin. Now, pag to be compounded quarterly naman, sabi natin quarterly, sabihin sa loob ng isang taon, 4 na beses ka mag-compute ng interest na pag sinabi natin quarterly. Now, quarterly tapos 2 taon. Ibig sabihin yan, isang taon, 4 na quarters, 2 taon. So 8 times, no? You're going to multiply, we're going to get the interest 8 times sa loob ng 2 taon kasi quarterly, no? So using the formula, pag sinabi natin 8 times, it means that you will multiply the 1,000 8 times by 1.07. Okay? So ibig sabihin, may matagal, no? If using this formula, matagal ang pag-compute ng compound interest, compound amount, pag ito ang ginamit natin. You can imagine, di ba? Ilang beses mag-multiply. Okay? Now, the essence of our lesson for today, we're going to use a table, that is table number 1, para doon sa mga matatagal, mahahabang computation of interest, gagamit tayo ng table instead of multiplying like this one. So, hindi na masyadong practical if masyadong marami yung ating interest na i-compute. That is the importance of our lesson. Now, we're going to use a table and I'm going to show you yung table. Yan, okay? So, this is the using table 1. We call this table the future value of 1. So, you can find this table in the internet or in social media. Marami kang pwedeng pagkunan nito. Although they have different presentation, maybe different grid lines, different design, but the same table, no? It will give us the same amount. Example, dito sa ating column 1%, pare-pareho lang yan, no? So whatever table you will find in the internet or in any source, pare-pareho yan. 1,000, then the second year, sa year number 1. So, ganun din yan. Iba-iba yung design, but the same amount, the same numbers ang makukuha mo dito sa pag hinanap mo yung future value of 1 table, no? So, ito gagamitin natin in computing yung mga masyadong mahahaba na pag-compute ng mga compound amount. Example, 10 years, no? 10 years tapos to be compounded semi-annually. No? Pag 10 years to be compounded semi-annually, you can imagine 20 times kung mag-compute ng interest. So, hindi masyadong practical yung ganun, di ba? Kaya nga, we're going to use a table. Now, ito yung sample, paano natin gagamitin itong table na to. So, using the future value tables, the same sample. Basta sample natin, your principal is 1,000. Tapos, to be compounded in 2 years, 2 taon. In 1,000, i-compound natin, we're going to find the compound amount sa loob ng 2 taon. Okay? Tapos at 7%. Sabihin, 7% per year tapos 2 taon. So ang tanong dito, no? Magkano yung pera mo or what is your compound amount after 2 years? Yan, yung 1,000. Okay? You can see in the slide. Firstly, you're going to look for the 7% sa ating table. Hanapin natin 7% sa table. Para malaman natin magkano yung pera natin sa loob ng 2 taon at 7%. So, look at the column headings and you will find here yung 7%. That is the 7%. Okay? So, don't move your cursor. Pag na 7% column ka na, hanapin naman natin yung 2. Kasi yung column headings, these are the interest rate na gagamitin natin bawat compound period. So, annually kasi, so isang taon, 7% yung ating interest na gagamitin. Okay? Then we go downward para hanapin naman natin yung number 2. So, ibig sabihin ng number 2 sa ating parenthesis. The number 2 means that is the compound period. Ilang beses na mag-compute ng interest. Sabi ng problem, 2 taon kasi yan. So, 2 taon tayo mag-compute ng interest. Okay? So, at 7%, and we go downward and we will find here itong factor na to. No? So, saan sila nag-meet? 2. And they meet here at 7%. So, we call this the factor. The compound factor to be used is 1.1449. Okay? So, ito yung gagamitin natin as multiplier doon sa ating principal amount na 1,000. So, we just simply multiply 1,000 by 1.1449. So, you have here, no? 1,000 multiplied by 1.449. And multiplying them straight, it will yield 1,145 pesos. Okay, so hindi siya exacto, but if you're going to multiply, maybe not exactly 1145, but if you're going to round off a whole number, it will give us 1,145. Okay, so itong sagot ko sabihin yan, after, pag nag-invest ka ng 1,000, then after 1 year, it will give you 1,145. Okay, so pag invest ka ng 1,000, sa loob ng 2 taon, tapos ang interest ay 7%, you will have 1,145 after 2 years. Dahil sinasabi natin compound amount. Okay? So 1,145 is the future value or the compound amount. So magkano interest? You just minus 1,145 less the 1,000 or the principal of 1,000, it will give you 145 pesos. So yan ang interest, no? That is the compound interest, the 145. The difference between the future value and the principal, that is the compound amount. Okay, so pag masyadong mahaba, masyadong marami yung interest period natin to compute, this table will be very useful for us, no, in computing the future value. Right? So let's have another example. Ayan. So, ito naman ay sample ni Julie. So, take note guys, no? Sa compound, hindi lang sa ating sample kasi dito, we computed the interest annually. But in reality, you can compute the interest either semi-annual, ibig sabihin every 6 months. No? You can compute the interest quarterly, ibig sabihin every 3 months. Okay? Now, pag yung interest kasi binibigay ng bangko, that is good for 1 year. No? So pag sinabi natin quarterly, yung percent na binigay ng bangko, i-divide natin yung sa 4. Okay? Para makuha natin yung interest na gagamitin natin sa loob ng isang quarter. So why divided by 4 yung isang interest sa loob ng isang taon? Kasi quarterly. Okay? So pag sinabi ng bangko na the interest is 5% per year, no? Okay, to be compounded semi-annually, semi-annual every 6 months, no? They're going to divide the 5% by 2 kasi every 6 months, so semi-annual. So pag semi-annual, yung 5%, it means every semi-annual, you're going to compute the interest using 2.5%. Kasi hinati natin yung 5%. Okay? Now, sa ating next example, so let us talk about Julie Miller. So, meron siyang deposit sa bangko, 10,000 pesos. No? So you can be Julie Miller, no? Pwede ikaw si Julie mag-invest, no? So anybody from you guys out there, no? You can deposit bago ng amount. No? Now, tayo kay Julie Miller. Sabi ni Julie Miller, meron siyang 10,000 pesos. And she's going to deposit the 10,000 in a bank sa loob ng 5 taon. Then the interest rate given is 8%. Okay? To be compounded annually, 8% per year, and it will run for 5 years. No? Magkano ang pera ni Julie after 5 years? No? Magkano na? 10,000. Siyempre, lalaki, di ba? Kasi nag-invest nga sa bangko. Pero ang tanong, how much is the compound amount or the future value ng kanyang 10,000 in 5 years time? O yun ating given. No? So, hindi na tayo mag-compute ng maraming multiplier. We're going to use the table. So, to be compounded annually, sabihin, taon-taon, magko-compute tayo ng interest. So, loob ng isang taon, ilang beses na magko-compute ng interest? So, 5 times na. Kasi annually. Okay? At magkano ang interest every compound period? So, since annually, sabihin, bawat taon, the same interest rate, 8%. Okay? So, yun natin given, 10,000. Tapos, compound period is 5. Then, compound interest rate to be used is 8%. Okay? So, using the table, ang hanapin natin ay yung I. The I means the interest. Ito yung column headings dito. No? So, this one is the 8%. Let's go to the 8% column. So, ayan siya, 8. Then, your cursor stayed there sa 8%. Then, you look for the N. So, yung N, ibig sabihin, ilang interest period yung ating gagamitin. So, 5. Kasi annually. No? So, punta tayo sa 8%. Tapos, pababa. Hanggang makaabot tayo dun sa 5, the 5th row, or row number 5. The compound factor to be used is 1.4693. Okay? So, if you can see the table, 1.4693. So, ito yung factor na ating gagamitin in multiplying the 10,000. So, we multiply straight 10,000 by 1.4693. Okay? And it will give us the 14,693. So, what does it mean? What is the 14,693 means? That is the future value of your 10,000. Or that is the compound amount of the 10,000 of Julie Miller. Ibig sabihin, after 5 years, yung pera niya ay lalago sa 14,690. Future value ng kanyang 10,000. Okay? Now, magkano interest? Magkano compound interest? So, just minus 10,000 from the 14,693. So, magkano interest? 4,693 pesos. Ibig sabihin, yan yung interest na na-earn ni Julie after 5 years. So, have you noticed? Very simple. No? Very straightforward, very simple ang ating computation if we're using the table number 1. Okay? So, yan ang maganda. No? We are thankful na meron tayong table na ginagamit. Pag hindi, you can imagine, no? Pag wala tayong table na ganito, you will multiply your 10,000 by many parentheses. No? By 5 times, 10 times. No? So, we're thankful meron tayong table number 1. Okay, so I hope that you are following, you're able to follow our discussion, and we will have another sample. So ito naman si John Doe Miller naman. Siguro asawa nito or pinsan niya, ni Julie itong si John. Yung pera ni John, ganun din, 10,000. Kaya lang, nagkaiba sila sa interest period. To be compounded quarterly naman to. Kay Julie Miller kanina, compounded annually. Ibig sabihin, per year, mag-compute ng interest. Yung kanyang pinsan or fiancé or husband, 10,000 pero to be compounded quarterly. Pag sinabing quarterly, every 3 months. Right? Mag-compute tayo ng interest. So, sa loob isang taon, 4 na beses na mag-compute ng interest. Okay, then the interest rate given is 12%. Okay, so itong kay John, this one is a little bit complicated kasi hindi tulad ng kay Julie kanina. Per year ito kasi mag-divide tayo, mag-multiply. Okay, so unahin natin kunin yung letter I. The letter I, once again, that is the interest. Sabi na interest, bawat compound period, bawat quarter, magkano or ilang interest yung ating gagamitin. Okay? Hindi ba sabi natin, 12% ang binigay. So, 12% that is good for 1 year. No? 12% is for 1 year. Therefore, bawat quarter, ilang interest rate ang ating gagamitin. So, we simply divide 12% by 4. So, bakit 4? Kasi quarterly. Every 3 months, no? January to March, first quarter. April to June, second quarter. Then July to September, third quarter. Then October to December, that is the fourth quarter. So meron tayong 4 na quarters sa loob ng isang taon. Then bawat quarter, magkano interest rate yung ating gagamitin? So we simply divide 12% by 4. So it will give us 3%. So bawat quarter, yung interest rate or I na ating gagamitin ay 3%. Okay? So hanapin natin yung 3 sa I column. So 3, 3, 3. So ito. So merong 3%. Dito natin gagamitin. Now, next natin hanapin ay yung N. So N, once again, N is the number of compound interest period. Ibig sabihin, ilang beses tayo mag-compute ng interest. Yung I kasi, ang sabi ng I, no? Ilang person na gagamitin bawat compound period. Eh, itong N natin, ibig sabihin ng N, ilang beses lahat na mag-compute ng interest. Diba sabi natin, quarterly, so isang taon bawat 4 times mag-compute ng interest bawat isang taon. Tatlong taon yan. So we just multiply by the 4 by 3 years. It will give us 12. So 12 times na mag-compute ng interest sa loob ng tatlong taon. Okay? So you find the N or the 12 under the 3% column. Okay? 3%. We go downward hanggang makaabot tayo sa 12, row number 12. Okay? O sabi ng row number 12, dito sila nag-meet 1.4258. So 1.4258, that is the compound factor na ating gagamitin in multiplying that to our principal na 10,000 pesos. Okay? 1.4258. So ilagay natin siya dito. 10,000 multiplied by 1.4258. And you will have 14,250. Alright? So 14,258, that is the compound amount. Sabihin yung pera ni John Miller after 3 years will grow to 14,258. Alright? Pero diba, nadagdagan ka, no? Now, ang tanong, magkano interest? How much the compound interest earned by John Miller? So, just simply minus 14,258 minus less the 10,000 principal. Ang interest ni John Miller, 4,250. Malaking pera, diba? So, he earned 4,000 after 3 years. So, compound. So malaki, have you noticed na malaking compound interest na na-earn mo if we're going to use the compound method of getting the interest. Ayan, no? So very straightforward yung ating computation. Okay, so ayan. So let's have sample ko ba? Ito, sample. Medyo laki natin ating capital or ating principal nating invest. This time, we have 20,000. 20,000 pesos. So, to be compounded quarterly. So, once again, to be compounded quarterly every 3 months. Tapos, that is good for 3 years. Tapos, interest rate per year is 8%. Yan. Okay, so, magkano yung ating compound amount or future amount na makukuha out of this investment? So, firstly, kunin natin yung I. Once again, I is the interest rate to be used per period, per quarter, no? Magkano interest na gagamitin natin. So, we simply divide 8% per year na interest, no? Divided by 4, so kasi 4 na quarter, so 8% divided by 4, you have 2%. So it means bawat quarter, 2% yung ating gagamiting interest rate. Yan, okay? Then we get the N. So the N is the total number of compound period. Ilang beses na mag-compute ng interest sa loob ng 3 taon. So ganun din, di ba? 3 years, tapos quarterly. So just simply multiply 4 times 3 and it will give you 12%. So, compute na ating data, yung ating given, 2% I, 12% N. So we can now use the table number 1 in computing for the future value or compound amount. Okay. So sabi nating table, hanapin natin yung factor sa ating table. So you memorize, no? 2% tapos 12. So we go to the table. 2% tapos 12. Okay, that is 1.268. So the factor to be used is 1.268. Ito, dito sila nag-meet. So we use 1.2682 in computing the compound amount. 1.2682 multiplied by the principal of 20,000 pesos. Multiplying them straight, so 20,000 by the compound factor, you're going to have 25,364. Yan ang pera natin, yan ang pera mo. Pag ikaw investor na nag-invest ng 20,000 after 3 years na compounded quarterly, ang pera mo, it will grow to 25,364. So magkano interest? 5,364. We just deduct 25 less than 20,000. So compound interest is 5,364. So malaking pera, no? Imagine, after 3 years time lang, yung pera mo ay nag-yield ng interest na 5,364. Ayan, maganda sa using the table, no? And using table and using the compound interest formula. Okay, so hope that you are learning and you are anticipating that you're going to invest something, invest an amount sa isang bangko using the compound. So ito naman, this one is very simple. If you're going to know ilang taon ang bibilangin mo bago ang pera mo, a certain amount of money, ilang taon bago siya madoble. Di ba? Minsan yung tanong natin, pag may pera kang in-invest, gaano katagal bago siya madoble? Di ba? So example, you have 5,000 pesos. In-invest sa bangko. Yung sabi ng bangko, the interest rate to be given is 12% per year. No? So 5,000 tapos 12 times. Sa tanong mo sa bangko, ilang taon po ang bibilangin bago yung pera kong 5,000 ay mag-double or maging 10,000, di ba? Sometimes that is your expected, that is your wish, ilang taon o sana madoble yung pera ko, no? So dito, 5,000, ilang taon ang bibilangin bago madoble. Okay, so we're going to use a formula. Ito yung rule of the 72. So don't worry, no? The 72 is always constant, no? So medyo palagi yan. So gusto mong ma-double ang pera mo, ito yung formula ang gagamitin natin. Very simple. The 5,000 can be 10,000, 3,000, magkano gusto mong invest, no? So it's up to you. At gusto mo siyang madoble. So we use the rule of 72. So paano natin siya ginagamit? You simply divide the 72 by the I or by the rate. If you want to know approximately ilang taon bago ma-double, 72 divided by the interest rate given by the bank. So in this case, the interest given is 12%. So you simply divide 72 by 12%. So ang sagot yan is 6. So ibig sabihin yan, if you want to double the 5,000, bago siya maging 10,000, it will count like 6 years ang iyong paghihintay bago siya ma-double. So actual time actually 6.12. Okay, but using very quickly 72 by 12%, 6 years na. So you can estimate, 6 na taon pala, ang pera ko doble na. Yeah, pas may kaway, you're being encouraged to invest na doble, di ba? 6 years, doble na ang pera mo. Di ba? So, using the rule of 72. Okay, so very quickly, you can use this formula. Ito naman yung ito naman na iba. Yung kanina, sa ating mga previous slides, Ang hinahanap natin doon ay future value or compound. Sabihin, yung pera mo, magkano siya after 5 years. That is the future value. Yun ang pinag-usapan natin sa mga previous slide. But, starting from this slide, ang hahanapin naman natin ay yung present value. Pag sa present value, kung gusto mo magkaroon ng 1,000 sa loob ng 2 taon, magkano i-invest mo ngayon? Pag sa future value, ang nakukuha nating amount ay mas malaki. The present value, pag tayo nag-compute, makukuha amount natin ay mas bababa. Okay? Example. Kailangan mo ng 1,000 sa loob ng 2 taon. So today is 2023, tapos sabi mo, gusto magkaroon ng pera, gusto magkaroon ng compound amount ng 1,000 pesos in 2025. That is after 2 years na. Yan ang gusto mong mangyari. Magkano kaya ang aking invest ngayon? Para in 2 years time, meron akong 2,000 pesos. Yan hinahanap natin, yung present value ngayon. Okay? So, examine natin the process of in determining how are you going to determine how much you need to be deposited today. Okay? At 8% compounded annually. Tapos, it will grow to 1,000. Magkano invest mo ngayon? Present value, magkano? So that is the rationale, that is the background ng ating present value amount, no? Magkano invest mo ngayon? Pwedeng magkano pera mo after 2 years, 1,000. Paano magkakaroon ng 1,000 after 2 years? Paano magkakaroon ng 5,000 or 10,000 after 2 years, after 5 years? Magkano invest mo ngayon? Yan, no? If to be compounded annually at 8% interest. So, this time, pag tayo nag-compute ng present value, sabi ko kanina, no? Pag present value hinahanap natin, the resulting amount ng ating computation should be lower dun sa given na 1,000. Diba ang given natin 1,000? Din magkano invest ngayon? Itong ating formula. 1,000, kasi kanina, no? In getting the future value, ang ginawa natin, tayo ay nag-multiply. But using manual method, and you want to get the present value, baliktad yung ating gagawin. I-divide natin yung 1,000 by 1.08. Can recall, sa future value, minultiply natin yan. Para sa present value, we divide the 1,000 divided by 1.08. Pero bakit 1.08? 8% kasi ang given na interest. And we convert the 8% into decimal, so that is 0.08. Then we add the 1. The 1 is constant, so that is 1.08. No? So pag 9%, 1.09. Pag 10%, 1.10. Okay? So divide 1,000 by 1.08 twice. Bakit twice? Kasi 2 taon yung ating pinag-usapan. Okay? So simply means 1,000 divided by 1.08 divided by 1.08. So 2 beses na mag-divide ng 1,000. Right? And you will get the quotient is 857.33 pesos. Ano ibig sabihin yan? Kung gusto mo magkaroon ng 1,000 in 2 years time, mag-invest ka ngayon, magkano? 857.33. Ayan, no? That is the present value. So, mas mababa na kukuha nating amount pag present value yung ating pinag-usapan. Okay, now, you can imagine, pag 10 years pala, ang ating hinahanap, pag 10 years ang given, yung 1,000, i-divide mo siya ng 10 times sa 1.08. And that is not very practical. Medyo matagal. Okay? Baka magkamali ka pa ng divide, yun, ha? At calculator gamitin mo, baka magkamali ka pa ng division. So instead of 10, 9 times mo lang siya divide. So mali na yung sagot. Right? So to avoid that error, We're going to use a table once again, but this time, table number 2 na yung ating gagamitin. Take note, in getting the future amount or compound amount, ang ating ginamit was table number 1. Okay? But for the present value, table number 2 yung ating gagamitin. Sir, saan makukuha ang table number 2? So the same thing, you can find table number 1 and table number 2 on-site online source. Lahat ng table number 2 na makukuha nyo, pareho-pareho ng amount yan. Maybe they have a different presentation, different colors of the grid lines, different number of columns, different number of rows, but basically, yung amount na nakalagay doon sa lahat ng klase ng table number 2 ay pare-pareho lang. Right? Now, ang table number 2 iba. Kasi yung table number 2, you will notice, no? Palaging below or lower than 1. Ang makukuha natin, ang compounding factor sa table number 2 ay palaging below number 1. Yan ang 0.990, 0.980, 0.975. Kasi ang hinahanap natin ay mas mababa doon sa ating capital or principal. That is why mas lower than 1 yung ating factor na gagamitin dito. Okay? That is table number 2. So, malito ha. For future value, table number 1 ang gamitin. Pag present value, table number 2 yung inyong gamitin. So basically, the same thing. Meron tayong headings, no? Column headings 1, 2, 3, 4. So ang column headings natin, ganun pa rin. 1%, 2%, 3%. Right? Then yung row, ito pa rin yung N. Diba you can recall, the N stands for the number of times you're going to compute the interest throughout the investment period. Ilang taon. That's the N, you know? Okay. So, you can appreciate itong ating table number 2 if we're going to have a sample. Ito. Sample natin kanina, di ba? You can recall, kanina nag-compute tayo ng 1,000 tapos doing manually. Ang sagot natin, 857. Balikan natin ito. Using manual computation, 1,000 present value niya ay 857.33. Okay? Now, using the table, ganun pa rin ba yung result? Right? Hanapin natin. Ang problem natin, 1,000 to be compounded annually sa loob ng 2 taon. Right? So, hanapin natin yung percentage sa ating ginamit. Sabi natin, the percentage to be used ay 8%. Pabalikan natin ito. 8%. Yan. 8%. Tapos, to be compounded annually sa loob ng 2 taon. Okay? So, ang I ay 8%, ang N ay 2. Okay? So, hanapin natin sa table number 2. Ang I ay 8%. Ang N ay 2. So, ito siya. 0.857. Itong 0.857, ito yung factor na gagamitin natin in multiplying that amount ng 10,000. 0.857. Tandaan nyo 0.857 yung ating factor. 0.857. So multiply that straight, 1,000 by 0.857. It will give you will get 857. So pareho lang, di ba? 857 using the table, alright? 857 using manually. So pareho lang. Siyempre, the importance of, kaya may table tayo, no? Para mapilis yung computation natin, you will learn, you should know how to use table number 857. Yan, no? So, multiply the compound factor by the 1,000 and we'll get 857. Okay? So, tingnan natin, mayroon sample pa tayo dito. Ito sample. Okay, so once again, si Julie Miller naman to. Si Julie Miller, no, yung ating paborito. Si Julie Miller, sabi niya, in 5 years time, gusto niya magkaroon ng 10,000. So, today is 2023 na. So, in 2028, sabi ni Julie Miller, gusto niya magkaroon ng 10,000 pesos in 2023. Magkano yung aking i-invest ngayon if the interest rate is 10% and to be compounded annually? Yan, no? So, Once again, yung ating amount na makukuha dito ay lower, siyempre lower than 10,000 pesos. Pagkano? Kasi present value natin tinatanong. Present value. Now, tingnan natin yun. Ito yung kanyang manual computation. 10,000, interest rate, 10%, tapos 5 years. Okay. Saan? Then 10% is to be converted into decimal, so that is 0.10. So it means 1.10. So 10,000 divided by 1.10 divided by 1.10, 1.10, 1.10, 5 times. No? So bakit 5 times? Kasi 5 taon. So 5 times mag-divide ng 10,000 divided by 1.10. Okay? And you will get 6,209.21. Doing it manually. So matagal, di ba? Have you tried computing 10,000 divided by 1.10, 1.10, 1.10, 1.10, 1.10, 5 times, no? And you will get 6,209.21. Manually, no? But using the table, gamitin natin yung table, no? Ito yung table, tandaan nyo 10% tapos 5 times. So, punta tayo sa table. $10 tapos 5 times. So, 5 times na mag-compute ng interest. 10% tapos 5 times. So, ang factor na gagamitin natin, ito sila nag-video, is 0.621. So, ito yung compound factor na gagamitin natin. Okay? In multiplying that factor by the 10,000. Balik natin 10% tapos 5 times. No? So, 0.621. Okay? So, therefore, just multiply by 0.621 and you will get the 6,210 pesos. So, mas mabilis, no? Comparing that with the manual formula, 10,000 divided by 1.10, but using the table number 2, that should be table number 2, not table number 1. But using table number 2, 10,000, you just multiply that by 0.621 and you will get 6,210. Yan. So, ibig sabihin, pareho lang, di ba? 6,209 and 0.6210. Yan. So, mabilis siya, but the technique here, you should know how are you going to use the table. Okay? So, the table kasi pag nagkamali ka ng gamit ng heading tapos ng row, mali ng factor na yung gagamitin. Basta, you remember, no? Yung mga percentage sa taas, ito yung mga percentage na gagamitin mo for every compound period. Hindi ito per year, ha? Depende. Pag quarterly, example, pag quarterly, sabi ng bangko, 20% per year ang interest. To be compounded quarterly. Ibig sabihin, yung 10% ay di-divide ng 4. So, 20% divided by 4, that is 5. So, kaya 5% na gagamitin mo, no? Okay? O sabi ng bangko, the interest rate to be given is 6% per year. To be compounded semi-annually. 6% divided by 2. So, 3% ang yung gagamitin. O, ganun gamitin yung column heading, no? Yung row naman, yung mga numbers din sa ilalim, no? Ito naman yung ilang beses magko-compute ng interest. Okay? O, example. Ang haba ng interest period ay 5 years. To be compounded quarterly. Ibig sabihin yan, 5 years times 4 kasi quarterly, that is 20. Sabihin, 20% ka magko-compute ng interest. So, hanapin mo dito yung 20. Ito yung 20, pababa. Ayan, no? So, ang technique, pareho yung malaman paano gamitin yung column headings at paano gamitin yung mga rows. Para malaman mo anong factor yung gagamitin mo sa future value, or present value. Once again, pag future value o compound ang mga hinahanap natin, ang gagamitin natin ay table number 1. Pero pag ang hinahanap natin ay present value, gagamitin mo ay table number 2. Baka magkamali, no? Baka table number 1 ang magamit mo instead of table number 2. Or baka table number 2 ang ginamit mo instead of table number 1. Dito alam mo kagad pag present value kasi, mas mababa sa 1 ang iyong pagkuha. So dito, mas mababa sa 1 tong mga to. 0.990, 0.990. Sabihin, ito ay para sa present value. Okay, so yun ang ating lesson for today. So, sana ay magamit natin to in investing sa mga future bank accounts natin. So, compounding or getting the present value. Ayan, so happy. I hope that you will invest. So, happy investing. Okay? So, with that, I will leave you with this slide for you to digest, no? And pwede bang pa-click saglit, no? Yung subscribe button ng aking channel para suporta sa aking munting channel. Ayan. And hoping that you have enjoyed the session for today, guys. And once again, this has been Dr. Cortez, the Rich. See you around people sa ating future lessons pa, and bye everyone.